Jess Downswell wiped her flour-dusted hands on her apron, her eyes scanning the small but cozy interior of Ava's Sweet Tooth. The bakery was her pride and joy, a living testament to the love and memories she had shared with her best friend, Ava, who had passed away at just 13 from leukemia. Naming the bakery after her had been a way of keeping Ava close, even as the years rolled on. The bakery smelled of fresh bread, sugar, and warmth, a comforting scent that always reminded Jess of her mother, Cynthia. It had been 3 years since her mother had succumbed to lymphoma, but the kitchen still felt like her presence was there, guiding Jess through every knead of dough, every batch of cookies pulled from the oven. Her mother had taught her everything: how to bake, how to cook, and how to carry on even when life felt unbearably heavy. Jess had always been close to her parents, an only child who grew up helping her father, Jeffrey, on their dairy farm outside of Dillsbury. It was a small, close-knit town where everyone knew everyone's business, but that never bothered her. After all, she had grown up with the support of the entire town, especially after Ava's death and later, her mother's. As she mixed the batter for the morning's blueberry muffins, Jess thought back to the days when her mother would stand next to her in the kitchen, showing her how to properly fold the dough, her hands gentle but firm. Those lessons had become Jess's way of feeling connected to her mom, even when the grief felt unbearable. Every recipe carried a piece of Cynthia's wisdom and warmth, just as every corner of the bakery held memories of Ava's laughter and energy. It wasn't easy running a bakery alone, but Jess had never known how to stop moving forward. Her father, still running the dairy farm, checked in on her often, and his strength was her anchor. Despite his own grief, he always made sure to bring her fresh milk and eggs for the bakery, supporting her dream just as Cynthia had. The bell over the door chimed, and Jess turned to greet her first customer of the morning. It was Mrs. Harold, one of the town's oldest residents, who had been a regular ever since the bakery first opened.
"Morning, Jess,"
Mrs. Harold said with a warm smile.
"Those muffins ready yet?"
Jess smiled.
"Just a few more minutes in the oven. Coffee's fresh, though. Would you like a cup?"
"Absolutely. You're the only one who knows how I like it,"
Mrs. Harold replied, settling into her usual spot by the window. As Jess poured the coffee, she reflected on how her life had become a blend of sweetness and sorrow. She missed Ava and her mother deeply, but she found solace in the small moments like the smell of freshly baked bread, the friendly faces of her customers, and the peaceful rhythm of running the bakery. Jess glanced at the framed photo of her and Ava on the wall behind the counter, taken when they were about 7, their arms slung around each other's shoulders, laughing at something that had already slipped from her memory. Next to it was a picture of her mother, beaming in front of a birthday cake she and Jess had baked together years ago. Both photos served as daily reminders of why she had started Ava's Sweet Tooth in the first place, to honor the love and support that had shaped her. As the oven timer dinged, Jess grabbed an oven mitt and pulled out the tray of muffins, the sweet scent of blueberries filling the room. She plated one and brought it over to Mrs. Harold, who was already sipping her coffee and looking out at the quiet Dillsbury street.
"Here you go, fresh out of the oven,"
Jess said, placing the muffin in front of her. Mrs. Harold took a bite and nodded appreciatively.
"You've outdone yourself again, Jess."
"Thanks,"
Jess replied, a small smile tugging at her lips.
"I learned from the best."
The morning passed as it always did, customers coming in for their usual treats, sharing stories of their lives, and leaving with bags full of freshly baked goods. It was a routine Jess had come to rely on, a constant in her life when so many other things had changed. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Jess locked up the bakery and took a moment to stand in the empty space, her heart full despite the losses she had endured. The bakery was more than a business. It was a tribute to the people she loved, the ones who had shaped her into the woman she was today. Tomorrow would bring another day of baking, of memories, of moving forward. And in every batch of cookies, every loaf of bread, and every pie she made, there would always be a piece of Ava and Cynthia forever sweet and cherished in her heart.